Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, your go-to podcast for all things green and growing. I'm Ben, your allotment guide, and here to help you cultivate your garden and your passion for plants. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Each episode will dig into tips, tricks and techniques to make your garden and allotment thrive. From planting, sowing and growing, we will share all the tips and advice. We will also have regular episodes talking about what we have been up to on the allotment. So sit back, grab a brew and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for another brand new episode. We're keeping these podcasts running again. Obviously, we had a short little break while we were moving property, but they're now back up and running again. And I hope you've all found them interesting, as obviously the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about what you can plant in December and also the jobs which need doing in the fruit garden, the vegetable garden, and the flower garden. Well, today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about all the jobs which need doing in the polytunnel, the shed and the greenhouse. This is a new section what we've started adding in, and hopefully you find it useful and hopefully you can tick off those jobs in the polytunnel and greenhouse and shed that need doing. But first, we're going to start off with a little Christmas joke. If you've not been following our Instagram and Facebook pages and YouTube, you won't have seen the Christmas joke that we post every single day. So today's Christmas joke is, why do you never see Christmas trees arguing? Why do Christmas trees never argue? Because they pine for peace on earth. There we are. That's a cracker. I hope you enjoy that one. You can share that with everybody else. But yeah, we'll keep these jokes running on a daily basis. Like I said, you can see them also on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook as well. And obviously TikTok as well. We're on every platform going. Well, we're trying to be. But yeah, today's podcast, we're going to be talking about everything that you can do in your shed, your greenhouse and your polytunnel to get them all prepared, ready for next year ahead of the gardening season. And obviously, you know that I've also got a polytunnel. I've got a shed cum greenhouse, what I made myself. It's a shed, but it's got perspex sides and perspex roof, so that it lets lots of warmth in as well. So that is our shed cum greenhouse, where we start everything off for growing in the new year. So the jobs what need doing in the polytunnel if you've got one. And if you are thinking about getting a polytunnel, I have to let you know that you should never try and go for these cheap varieties that are about £99. Yes, you may say that's not cheap, but it is a cheap variety of polytunnel. Don't try and buy any in like the January sales or anything like that. Stick to buying a proper polytunnel from a bigger company like First Polytunnels, Northern Polytunnels, all them sort of companies, as they are made to last. The ones that are at like £99, you often see them like square mesh material type thing, and they'll just disintegrate and rip when there's a first bit of strong wind as well. So save your money and invest in a proper one. I've had mine up about 16 years now, and yes, the plastic has split after about 10 years, but I'm holding it together and we're keeping it on, and it's still going strong. It will last another year. I say this every single year. Every year I keep thinking I'm going to have to replace that skin if it blows off. But no, we managed to repair it and get it back on again. So the jobs which need doing in the polytunnel for December this month are, you need to insulate them. If you're growing inside them, to keep the temperature stable inside a polytunnel during cold December days and nights, consider adding insulation. You can use bubble wrap on the inside walls to help retain the heat while still allowing light to enter. Ensure the bubble wrap is secured and covers the most vulnerable areas, such as around the doors and the edges where cold drafts might enter. Ventilate on milder days. Yes, we do get some mild days in December. Proper ventilation is crucial even in winter. When the weather is mild, open the doors or ventilation flaps to allow fresh air to circulate. This reduces humidity and helps prevent fungal diseases such as mold or mildew, which can develop in stagnant air. Be sure to close the vents before temperatures drop in the evening to retain warmth inside the polytunnel. If you're using heating in your polytunnel, such as electric heaters or gas heaters or paraffin heaters, check that they're working properly and safely. Ensure that the heater is thermostatically controlled to maintain constant temperatures inside the polytunnel. You can also add water containers to absorb the heat during the day and release it at night to keep temperatures more stable. Now, I don't have heating in my polytunnel because obviously I'm not there all the time, so I don't really want to keep it down. Heaters on in there, so I do have water butts in there what are filled with water throughout the winter, so that any heat that comes into the polytunnel, it'll warm the water up and it'll absorb it and let it out at night. Harvest any winter crops. If you're growing winter vegetables in your polytunnel like kale, spinach, winter lettuce or leeks, December is a great time to harvest them. These crops thrive in cooler temperatures of a polytunnel and require regular harvesting, encouraging further growth. Make sure you check your crops regularly to pick them as they reach maturity. Sow hardy annuals and winter vegetables. December is the ideal time to sow hardy annuals such as sweet peas, calendula, cornflowers in the polytunnel. You can also plant fast-growing winter salads and greens like rockets, lamb's lettuce and mustard greens, which will grow well in the protection of the polytunnel. Use tray or modules to start seeds and place them in a well-lit part of the tunnel for optimal growth. Weed control. Even though weed growth slows down in the winter, weeds can still appear in the polytunnel. Regularly inspect the soil and beds, remove any weeds that sprout up to prevent them from competing with your crops' nutrients and space. Removing weeds now will also reduce the problem of weed seeds spreading in the spring. Now, I've got black membrane down on my flooring in my polytunnel because I don't actually grow in the ground in the polytunnel, but weeds still do manage to pop up and around everywhere, especially the bindweed. Inspect and repair the polytunnel structure. Now, this is what I was just talking about. Check the entire polytunnel structure for any signs of damage. Look for tears or holes in the polythene. Cover and repair them using special polytunnel tape. Ensure the framework, doors, ventilation systems are in good working system. Tighten any loose fittings, keeping the structure in good shape ensures it remains effective at protecting your plants throughout the winter. Monitor for pests. While growth slows down in winter, pests like aphids, slugs, and red spider mites can thrive in the warmer environment of the polytunnel. Inspect the plants regularly for any signs of pest infections and treat them with organic pest control methods such as neem oil or insecticidal soap if needed. Remove any affected leaves or plants to prevent pests from spreading. Plan for next year. December is the perfect time to reflect on past growing season and plan for the year ahead. Take notes on what crops worked well and what didn't, and start planning your crop rotations and garden layout for the spring. Begin ordering seeds and supplies early so you're ready to sow and plant when the warmer months arrive. We'll soon be starting to sow them seeds. I'm so excited. I love sowing seeds. That's the best part of the year. I do absolutely love doing that. So next up, we're going to talk about what needs to be done in the shed. Deep clean your shed. Now, this is what I do every single year. I literally strip it back and tidy it all back and everything. Begin by giving your shed a thorough clean. Remove any clutter, all plant pots and tools that have been sitting idle. Sweep the floor to remove dirt, cobwebs and plant debris and wipe down any structures. A clean shed not only looks better, but it reduces the chance of pests a home inside over the winter months. Now, I use disinfectant and everything, and I spray everything down just to give it that extra protection and make it nice and clean for the next year. Organise and declutter. December is a great time to declutter your shed and organise your tools, equipment and supplies. Sort through old pots, broken tools, unused gardening items and decide what you want to keep, repair or discard. Now, that's why I always like to get my allotment sorted as fast as possible after the summer, the big tidy up and clear all the beds and everything, because then I can concentrate on doing all the shed work, all the polytunnel work and tidying it up and getting it all ready for the March sowing time. Inspect and repair the shed structure a bit like your polytunnel. Check around, see if any repairs need doing, check for leaks in the roof, cracks in the walls or gaps around the doors. Now, my shed cum greenhouse leaks everywhere, but it waters the plants while it's leaking. Organise your seeds. Go through your collection of seeds and check the expiration date. Discard any old expired seeds or organise the ones you want to keep. Store them in a cool, dry place inside sealed containers or seed storage boxes to protect from moisture and pests, especially squirrels. Make a list of seeds you need to order in the up and coming plant season and start planning your garden for next year. Okay, so is there any other things that need doing in the shed? Set up bird feeders and nesting boxes. Now, this is not particularly in the shed, but obviously in your shed, filling your bird feeders up and sorting your nesting boxes out. If you store bird feeders or nesting boxes in your shed, December is a perfect time to clean and set them up in your garden. Clean out bird feeders, fill them with fresh seeds or fat balls and position them in sheltered areas. Providing food and shelter for birds during the winter months encourages natural pest control when the growing season returns. Prepare for early spring planting. I can't wait. Start thinking ahead to the spring planting season. Prepare seed trays, pots, propagators so they're clean and ready for sowing early crops like tomatoes, chilies and sweet peas. Consider setting up a designated area in your shed for early seed starting. Make sure you have the tools and supplies you need in place. I need to start writing all my seed lists down of what I need to start planting pretty soon, because we're going to get started. And I'm thinking about actually starting all my onion seeds as well. We're going to start sowing some onion seeds this month, so hopefully we get some fantastic onions growing next month. So that is all the jobs which need doing in the shed and the polytunnel. We haven't actually got any jobs for the greenhouse, but the greenhouse is basically the same as the shed and the polytunnel. Make sure like everything's disinfected, clean down all the glass, clean down any surfaces, tidy up and make sure there's no cracks in the glasses, and also make sure there's enough clips holding in the glass sheets, because during the winter months, you obviously get a lot of wind and storms, which can actually damage the structure. And once it starts to bend or anything like that, that is when you could possibly lose your greenhouse. So make sure everything is secured and fastened down. So that is all the jobs which need doing in December. If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode we were talking about all the jobs which need doing in the fruit garden, the vegetable garden and the flower garden. So make sure you go back and listen to that episode. If you do enjoy these episodes, please do share them out to friends and family or into Facebook groups and stuff like that for people to listen to. The more people that listen to them and the bigger reach that we get out to, the better. And yeah, I hope that you all enjoy them. So we'll be back with an episode tomorrow for you all to enjoy. So remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Gardening with Ben. I hope you have found some useful tips and inspiration for your own gardening and allotment journey. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love for you to leave a review and share the podcast with fellow gardening enthusiasts. Your support helps us grow this community and continue bringing you great content. You can also follow us on social media on every platform called Gardening with Ben for daily gardening tips and updates. Happy gardening, and until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with